Hello, everyone. Welcome to Songwriting 101 with Danny Aridi. We're very glad to have you, Danny. Thank you for joining us. Um, a couple of more people here. Let's just let them in. Okay, so as I mentioned in the email, we'll just try to keep ourselves on mute unless Danny wants us to speak. So let's just try to minimize the clutter of noise. And but please feel free to keep your videos on. We would love to see you all and have an interactive session with everyone. I know we're still not able to have sessions in person, but video is the best we can do. So let me just quickly introduce Danny, although he will be introducing himself in detail in a bit. But Danny is a multi award winning Lebanese and Canadian singer and songwriter, and he's currently signed with Universal Music. He recently won the Best Local Band Act 2019 award by What's On magazine, as well as won two of the region's leading talent competitions. Danny, you want to go ahead and give a detailed introduction about yourself and let us know what you've been up to, and then we can begin the session.
Sure,
And
sure.
I
Thanks.
think you should let them know where you were last 2 days for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, now is the busy time, busy season, so a lot of performances at the end of the year. I'm based here in Dubai, and the winter time is always the busiest time of year in terms of events. The other day, I opened for Jacob Collier at Berklee, Abu Dhabi. I'm a Berklee alumni, and we had performances there at the Music Summit in Abu Dhabi. And it was a great experience full of panelists from around the world, amazing songwriters in America to producers in and around the region in Asia and Europe. So it was a beautiful experience really to be alongside everybody and in that environment and to perform alongside some great artists as well. So yeah, thank you very much, Charita, for that nice introduction, and I appreciate you, Mega, for reaching out and for having me on here. And if you guys are ready, we can get started with the course. Sure. So I will be sharing my screen, and feel free to leave any questions and things that you have in the chat. We'll try to get through as many things as possible. And usually the way that this course works is um, it's a very sort of interactive course. So I'll be, presenting to you guys. If you have any sort of questions and things, feel free to leave them in the chat. We will try to have a Q&A session at the end. There's a lot of sort of material that we'll cover. Ideally, for a course like this, I would suggest that you send me lyrics of anything that you're working on. You don't have to send lyrics. It's not a mandatory thing, but for me, in order for me to give you some sort of feedback, and then if we have another session, maybe in January or February, it'll be great to see the progression of your song based off of the feedback and the things that we learned today. Hopefully will help build you to be a better songwriter and to write more confidently and express your ideas better. So without further ado, we can share my screen here. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? All right, great. So we're going to talk about Songwriting 101 with me, and a little bit about me. We had a really nice introduction, and so just so you know, I've won a couple of awards in the region, different talent shows, and I'm signed with Universal Music. They help distribute my music around the world, and I've written, composed, and released 17 original songs of my own. And I also write for many artists. And this is something that a lot of songwriters that you'll learn will do as well. We also write for others. And there's a lot that you can do with that in your career. Songwriting can be a job on its own if it's planned out well. And so I've written for, ensembles, different groups of sometimes 15 artists working on one song together as a choir. I've written for rappers and for opera singers. So it's nice to have a variety of music, a variety of genres that you can write for. That's something that's really helpful. I've also opened up for international acts. Some of them are Bruno Mars, Backstreet Boys, Fifth Harmony. and it all started with humble beginnings, little shows from 1 to 2 people to performing in front of 15,000. So it's the progression of a career is really tied to how many performances you do, and that's something I really recommend that you do as musicians, as artists. As much as you can perform out there, go for it. Take every opportunity. I am a Berklee School of Music alumni. That was my introduction into music education, which is great. Before that, I studied in international business and marketing, the very standard prerequisites for a musician. If you have parents from the Middle East and Asia, I'm sure you can understand. I needed that degree before I can pursue music. And then I also worked with Grammy Award-winning producers and songwriters, and they continue to be my mentors, and I'm always grateful to learn from them and to work with them on different songs. So that's enough about me. We can jump into the course now. So the course will cover these 10 topics. You've probably seen this in the little syllabus and course description. So we're going to talk about what makes a good songwriter, expressing your ideas, putting pen to paper, inspiration and writer's block, what makes a good song. And then we're going to dive into the technical details such as song structure, hooks and choruses, and songwriting techniques. And then we may or may not have time to do this, but ideally, if you were going to join in the next session that we'll be doing hopefully in January or February, I'll ask you to give me an artist that you admire and one of your favorite songs by that artist. And we will listen to that song in the next session and see what makes them great and why you like that song or why you're drawn to it and the things that we can learn from that. So that's a really helpful thing, and it really helps put things into perspective. And then lastly, hopefully we'll have feedback on your work. I've gotten 4 songs, and I was really happy to read your work and to have received them. So thank you for sharing those. For those who did, hopefully we'll have time to get you some feedback on your work. And if not, then we'll definitely do that in the next session. So we're going to talk about what makes a good songwriter. So a good songwriter is really just a great storyteller, right? So we are writing short stories. That's what basically a song is. You're going to take your listener on a journey. You're going to tell them a beginning and end, a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So you want to think of your song really as a conversation with the listener. This is an important way to kind of think about it, because oftentimes we know what the song is in our mind, but it's really hard to make a new listener understand that. And that is really the key to a good song. If someone can pick up what you're trying to tell them instantly on the first read, the first listen to your song, then you've got a good song there. Good songwriter is open-minded and willing to learn. I've mentioned earlier that I've written for opera singers and I've written for rappers, right? The 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum. But you're willing and open-minded to learn different techniques, different things. And it ties into the next point here of being able to listen and appreciate a variety of musical genres, right? So for me personally, my type of music is pop alternative music. That is what I perform on the stage. But what I listen to, my playlist is a very varied playlist. You have things from Ludovico, classical piano, and then you have things from, metal bands back when I was a big metalhead, and then you'll have some modern rap and R&B and, commercial things like Ed Sheeran and things like that. So even though you may have a favorite genre, which is completely normal and fine, it's still nice to appreciate the different musical genres and things out there. Because although it might not be your cup of tea to listen to, British drill rap music, for example, there is a lot that you can learn from how they phrase things, their smart use of the English language, how they twist some words, how they play with hooks, how they play with space in the song. So keep an open mind, that's a big key here. Also, a good songwriter is an empathetic person. They're curious and they're great observers, right? In order to write about something, you have to be curious about it first. You have to observe what's happening and be able to really put it down based on how you're feeling, right? And as artists, you'll learn. A good songwriter can write from experience, but a great songwriter can write from someone else's experience. think about the next step of your songwriting could be putting yourself, and this is a great exercise, in someone else's shoes, experiencing something completely new and different that you've never experienced, and being able to write from their perspective. That is a very powerful tool for a songwriter to have. So a great songwriter also tries different methods to develop an efficient sort of process, because different things work for different people. And we're going to talk about some of those things soon. And you can develop a process that works for you. And once you find that thing that works, it's really brilliant, because you'll know how to zone into that mindset, how to jump into that phase that just inspires you instantly, and your writing will flow, and it'll be a much easier thing once you develop that efficient process. So don't be afraid to try out different methods. If something doesn't work, try something new, you know. Have the big picture when things don't go to plan. Don't put a lot of pressure on having to write now and finish this in this instant. You know, realize that sometimes great things take time, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they come in 2 minutes. So just see the big picture and realize if it needs some space, that's okay too. Later on, you'll be able to write whether inspiration strikes or not. And that's really a skill that you will just develop, honestly, with practice. It becomes something second nature to you, where you'll be able to have any topic, emotion, feeling, location, and be able to write about it. And the most important thing for a songwriter to do is to write about how they feel in ways that make sense to others, right? Because at the end of the day, if someone doesn't understand your message, they won't understand the song, and it will lose some of the value that it has. So these are some of the things that make a good songwriter. So these are some successful songwriters that, you know, there's many in the world, but if I had to, you know, just pick 3 off the bat, I would pick Beyonce. She's an excellent performer, great songwriter, amazing stage presence. She's written so many songs that are very powerful and empowering for women as well. And just an incredible artist that's won, you know, multiple awards. Ed Sheeran is an amazing songwriter as well. He's someone that's written for many other artists, including he writes for Justin Bieber, just as one of the, you know, hundreds that he's written for. And he's this humble guy who isn't necessarily the Hollywood, you know, smile and face of things. So he was someone who was able to connect with people on an emotional and on a very genuine and real basis, and that stemmed through his music. J. Cole is another incredible R&B artist, and I really recommend looking at his songwriting style, because his use of words and the language and his similes and metaphors is just beautiful. It's poetry before music, and at the end of the day, before musicians and artists, a songwriter is really just an excellent poet and an excellent storyteller. So I recommend checking out these 3 artists. Some other successful songwriters that you may not necessarily know is Michael J. So he's written for Celine Dion, Eminem, and many others, and he has over 75 million copies of records sold. And he's one of my mentors that listens to my music and has given me feedback on my songs personally, and I'm really grateful to him. Max Martin is another songwriter who's written for The Weeknd, Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and more. So, you know, if you might have noticed, if you have a good eye there, that a lot of his artists are female artists. So here's a male artist who isn't necessarily up on the stage and in the limelight for these, writing songs for female artists in a female's perspective. So that's a brilliant skill to be able to do. And then, of course, you have ghostwriters. Ghostwriters are another, you know, you can be a songwriter who sells your song to someone else and not have your name on there, which is what a lot of people do, especially in the R&B industry, if that's something you're interested in. So just to show you that there are songwriters that are in front of the stage that write songs for themselves, but also for others. There are songwriters that are behind the stage, behind the scenes, away from the cameras, that write for others. And there are songwriters that no one even knows who their names are, but they also write for others. So different types of songwriters out there. So now we're going to talk about expressing ideas and some of the different ways that we could do that. So the easiest way to do it is to observe, feel, analyze, and express, right? Observe how you're feeling right now And one of the easiest ways that you could do it is to look at the present moment, right? It's very difficult for you to write a very happy, cheerful song if you woke up hearing bad news, if you had a bad night's sleep, if you're fighting with your partner or whatever it may be. It's very hard to stem happiness and things from that. So instead of that, why not write about what you're feeling now? The same thing is, on the opposite. If you woke up and the birds were singing and your coffee was just right and you had an amazing morning, why would you write about a sad, depressing song at that time, right? So try to stem, if you want to write something now, try to look within. Looking within is almost a very easy, much easier exercise to do. So observe how you're feeling and then help analyze what is it exactly that I'm feeling here and express it. And a good way to do that is to, look beneath the surface, really dive deep. So a good exercise to do to help express your ideas, because, and the third point here that talks about one topic can have thousands of interpretations. So which one resonates with you at this moment, right? So if you take a topic of love, for example, there are so many songs about love, right? And love is such a broad character. It's such a broad topic. So one way that you can break it down is almost like a brainstorming exercise. You can write love at the top of a big paper and then kind of, make some branches of that. Okay, love. Let's talk about this. You can love your family, your parents, your brothers and sisters. You can love your friends, your best friends, your close friends. You can also love your partner, right? You can love your wife, your husband. You can also love your pets, your animals. You can love the earth, the world. There's so many things you can do in that. And then within love, you can also talk about lust. You can talk about happiness. You can talk about betrayal. You can talk about desire. There's, breakups. There's so many ways you can go. So stem from that one big topic and then go even deeper and deeper. See what resonates with you at this moment. And then on the fourth point here, it's important to express yourself clearly and efficiently in your song, though, because the more that you can say with fewer words, the better, right? So I say that again. The more you can say with less words, the better. Less is more, right? So an important idea here as well to understand is that, when we typically jump into writing a song, let's say now you have the topic, you have the idea in mind, you have the direction that you're going in. So you might understand the full motive, the full emotion, the whole idea behind your song. But you have to ask yourself, will a first-time listener be able to understand this too? Let's say I'm writing a song, I'm Taylor Swift, okay? Most of her songs are about this, and it's okay, she won't be listening. But most of her songs are about, breakups and the guy getting away or the guy doing something hurtful and her almost expressing that, right? So she does a really good job at taking the listener on that journey, right? Because she has, let's say now she has broken up with this guy and she feels hurt and betrayed, and he is, he's done something wrong here. So now she has to express that in a way so when a first-time listener hears it, they understand exactly what she's feeling. They understand the flow of the story, right? So you have to think of your song as a conversation with the listener. What message are you trying to convey, and how will it leave them feeling? Are they going to be on your side? Are they going to feel what you're feeling? That's the goal. So when it comes to actually writing now, if you ever feel a sense of inspiration, write it down or record it as a voice memo now, right? Not tomorrow, not in 2 minutes, right here, right now. We all have our phones on us, right? Nearby. Nowadays, your phone is like always in your pocket or like 1 meter away. As soon as you get an idea, because if you're like me, sometimes I think of something and then I think, oh, I'll remember that in 2 minutes. 10 seconds goes by and I've forgotten it, right? And I'm like, oh, I should have, written down or recorded it. So if you ever have any sense of inspiration, even if it's a melody you're humming, like, record it down. If it's a thought, an idea, this is one of the best habits, I think, for any songwriter. So if you look at my voice memos, it has everything from 5-minute voice recordings to 10-second little snippets of branches and ideas of songs. You can try the brainstorm approach that we mentioned earlier, writing love, for example, and going through that. You can write a different topic. You can write happiness. You can, and then explore that. Approach a song as you would a poem or short story. And we can talk about things like rhyming patterns, how poems do, for example, with one line ending with an A and then the second with a B. So you have an A-B format, for example. There's many other formats you can do with that. But a short story and a journey is really what you want to, express here. Think of your song having a beginning, a middle, and an end. The introduction should really be just that. It's an introduction to the story. You're opening the door, right? And then seeing what's inside the room. You're not jumping in the room right away, right? So open that door slowly, let the audience take a peek and explore what's to come in your song. Ideally, you want to have a song that builds up like a graph, right? So it starts off and then it builds up, the choruses help it, and then at the end, there's a nice big lift, and then the song ends beautifully. That's a nice little flow of a song, instead of it starting, downward, the opposite way, for example. So that's the journey you want to take your reader on. A good question to ask during any song is the who, what, when, why, where, and how. This is great. And now when we're going to analyze a song a little bit later, you're going to see just how effective this is. And you're going to see how many songs actually answer these questions, and it might surprise you. And then take a step back. Once you've written your work, take a step back and really analyze the fluidity of it all and think, is this easy to understand? Can I make this easier to understand? Can I convey the message with less words? Because any great writer will tell you that great writing and editing is really taking stuff out. It's not putting stuff in, right? I'm sure if you've written essays and things, university, you'll notice in the editing stage, okay, you might have to reach a certain word. Really, it's removing some words that don't need to be there. You can still convey the message with less sometimes. And try to see that fluidity of the story as well. So these are some of the things that will help you once you're putting pen to paper and really getting down to the songwriting process. So when it comes to inspiration and writer's block, it's challenging to write a sad song when you're happy and a happy song when you're sad, So as I mentioned earlier, try to write with the current feeling that you're feeling. That's always a really good and genuine approach, and it comes from the heart, right? Eventually you will be able to separate that and dive into different subjects regardless of your mood, right? And I'll tell you a great example for this. One of the people that I've written a song for, I'm Lebanese Canadian, right? So he was in Lebanon. I don't know him personally until he reached out. And unfortunately, he was near the Beirut blast, the big explosion that happened in Beirut. And he told me a day before that happened that he would like to work with me to write a song. And then I didn't hear from him for 3 or 4 days. And when the blast happened, whenever a tragedy like this happens, you reach out to everyone and you check if they're safe and things. And he reached out to me saying, "Hi, Danny, I'm currently in a hospital bed. I was near the blast when the explosion happened. So-and-so, I would like to write a song about my experience and what I'm feeling right now." And he sent me a paragraph of how he's feeling, how he's lying in the hospital bed, how he has shards of glass all around his body, and he's wrapped in in the situation that he's in. And we ended up writing a song. I sent him the song 2 days after, and he absolutely loved it, ended up recording it. And it was, he managed to perform it and play it in different media outlets in Lebanon. So eventually, even though that's not me in that situation, obviously as a human being and as artists, we're all empathetic people. So eventually you'll be able to hear someone else's story and be able to write about that. I think that's a great sort of skill to have. And it's something that you can develop for sure. But for now, focus on an experience in the present, how you're feeling, remember it, record it, write it down, and draw from that. Another way that you can do it is if you've had big experiences in your life, whether they're positive or negative in the past, is to try to go and relive those moments and write them down on paper. And when you relive those moments, really get expressive, like write a lot first and then start taking out details and making it simple. You know what I mean? So if you are writing about the moment that you saw one of your best friends get married, for example, right? You were at the wedding, maybe you're an artist, maybe you sang their first dance song and you're watching them dance and you're so happy for them. And you want to write about that feeling, seeing love and happiness and the start of a family, of a, you know, a beautiful journey, and you're there witnessing. Take the reader on that journey with you. And the best way to visualize this is really holding the listener's hand and walking them through. Let them go to the room, let them sit next to you, let them grab a microphone while you're on that stage and they're singing alongside you. Think of it in that way to really help express that feeling, right? And a song can come together either bit by bit in a matter of weeks or all together in a matter of minutes. So don't worry about writer's block and things like that, because if you were stressed out about having to write something now, oh, like, you know, here's a pen, here's a paper, write a song, that pressure and that anxiety is not a good place to draw from. So give yourself time, let it flow. It's okay to write a few sentences here, come back to it a week later, write a couple more. And at the same time, if you're feeling a sense of inspiration, and you know that, wow, like things are coming, things are flowing, ideas are happening now, then make use of that, because that time is gold. You know, sit down and then write. If you feel that sense of inspiration, definitely take advantage. Don't let it slip away. So now we're going to talk about what makes a good song. So a good song really does these three things. It conveys a certain message effectively. This is really important. Like, what's the message? What's the idea behind the song? What's the motive, right? What's the theme? It's like any short story. It's structured well. This is really important. We're going to talk about structure really soon. And the song is about 3 to 3.5 minutes in length. This is important to remember, especially if you're writing for radio, because that is sort of the sweet spot for radio songs. If your song is over 4 minutes, it's less likely to be played. If it's 2 minutes, it might be considered too short. So try to aim for 3 minutes, 3 minutes 30. That is the ideal, you know, average time. And you will notice most songs, if you look through your iTunes or your Spotify, you'll notice most of them are within that range. So a great song is memorable, replayable, and recognizable, right? To make something memorable, it's really a bliss point. We're going to touch on this point a little bit later, but you've got to be unique enough to be different, but familiar enough to be recognizable, right? We're going to talk about that really soon. And then lastly, there's got to be an emotional connection. Why do certain artists resonate with us? Because we feel like this song was written for us, right? We feel like the song is written, this artist is expressing exactly what I'm feeling right now. Oh my God, I love this artist. They're able to convey exactly, it's crazy what I'm feeling. I'm feeling super happy. They're explaining that. They've went through an experience exactly like I'm going through, or I'm at the gym and their song is hyping me up, whatever it could be, you know. And a great song is also easy to sing along to. You know, us as musicians and artists, oftentimes we like to show off a little bit, right? We like to show, maybe we'll throw in a crazy guitar solo. If you have a great vocal range, you might throw in some nice runs and some nice melodies. You might play with tempos and with different things, but really think of it, at the end of the day, you're writing for the average listener, right? So it has to be easy for them to sing along to. If it can pass the hum test and the test or the whistle test, If you can hear someone walk by the street and whistle your song, you know, then you've got a hit. That's a huge achievement, by the way. So make it easy to sing along to. And you'll notice a lot of hit songs have almost like a nursery rhyme melody, because that's what sticks in our minds. You know, the simpler, the better, honestly. But it's got to be written and performed from the heart, because you can tell when something is not genuine, and you always want to make it genuine, right? So now we're going to talk about the key elements to a great song. And obviously with a lot of things in this presentation, I recommend, you know, writing these things down. You probably have, you might have access to the recording of this or whatever, but this is really important. The key elements to a great song, first one is a strong opening line. So many great songs, if you go back and listen to it, the first words that you hear from the artist are so important. That's the first impression. We might not realize it, but a lot of songs have incredible, you know, opening lines. So make sure you have a strong opener that's a little bit maybe unique or different, or that introduces them to, you know, like I mentioned, almost opening the door, peeking into the room, right? So that opening the door moment, that is your opening line. So that first impression is really key. You want to have a catchy and singable hook, chorus, and a melody. This catchy thing can be your chorus, usually is. And it has and it could also have an instrumental, you know, little melody, and that melody could be the hook of the song, right? And then we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the last slide. It's the bliss point, being unique enough to be different, but familiar enough to be recognizable. There are, you know, only so many chord progressions you can do in the world. There's only so many melodies, but music can still be very unique and very different and very much your own. But at the same time, you don't want it to be so wild that the average person on the street is like, oh, I don't recognize this. This is too unfamiliar for my ears, right? You want them to be able to recognize, maybe you're playing with, let's say you just choose 4 simple chords on piano or guitar, right? And you have a simple melody on there. You can even take a popular song and play with those chords, change up the melody, and now suddenly it's a whole new song, right? Because it's a different melody on top of the same chords. Maybe you play the chords a little bit differently, make it your own, right? That's another good way that you can do it. So keep things interesting but familiar. Repetition is your friend when used wisely, right? This is really important here because there's a study conducted that took all of the top hits in the world. And what the study found was that the more a chorus is repeated, the more successful the song was on the charts, right? So the more a chorus was repeated, the more successful the song. So repetition makes people like something, right? I'm sure you might have experienced this the first time you heard a song, let's say on the radio, or your friend sent you a video or whatever it may be. The first time you heard that song, you might not have liked it, or you might not have paid much attention to it. But then the second, third time, fourth time, fifth time you heard it, now you've got that memorable, replayable elements of the song. That repetition has helped. And usually a chorus has repetition already within the song. So it makes sense that this study found the more a chorus is repeated, the more successful the song was, because people are able to remember it, be familiar with it, and want to play it again. So it should tell a clear and complete story from start to finish, as we mentioned, but it has to be interesting enough that the listener stays on board, right? Like if you think of Adele, for example, she's an incredible artist, and her songs are very emotional, very from the heart. And she tells a great story, and they progress so nicely. There is almost always a progression that's, you know, like a rising chart, that the song starts off very soft and slow, and then at the end she shows her range beautifully and tells that story, taking that journey, the listener on that journey. And it keeps you interested. Even if you've heard it before and you know what's coming, you're still looking forward to the part when she says this in the second verse or the bridge. You know what I mean? So a great song also has clever lyrics and rhymes. And this is really the chance to kind of showcase your personality and your style, right? you can, I don't know, if you're a gamer, for example, you can mention PlayStation 5 or Nintendo 64, or something like that in your lyrics. That can be a little like dig into what you like as a person and what might connect with your audience. For example, it could be anything. And rappers use this very wisely. They play on words, they showcase their sort of rhythmic rhyming patterns. And an important thing here is when you're writing, to leave space for your vocals in the mix. This is really important because in music, as I'm sure you know, when you're composing a piece of music without lyrics, just say if you're just composing a song, although I would say a music piece is a piece of music or an instrumental. When it has words attached to it, that's when it becomes a song. At least that's my definition. So when you're composing an instrumental, a music piece, remember when you're adding vocals to leave some space, let the music play. Give a pause in a song can be very, very powerful if used wisely, and can also help with transitioning into areas. You want to also time your breath before a chorus, before a verse, for example, and you'll be able to get better at that. And you want to obviously convey a specific feeling, emotion, and follow a song structure that's easy to understand. So now we're going to dive into song structure, right? So here are some different song structures. I've noticed some of you have, have dabbled with this as well. And in the Word document that I received, some of you already follow these, which is great. But there are different types of song structures. The most common ones you'll see for example, is the first one here, A. Well, you have verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, and a chorus, right? We'll talk about the components of these in more details. You can also have a structure like B, which is verse 1, straight to verse 2, and then there's a pre-chorus, a chorus, verse 3, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus. And then you have other structures that dive in, for example, C, D, and E. Now, if you're looking at this page, and if you have a keen eye, you might have realized something. Something is missing here in one of these structures. If you can tell what it is, then you've got a good eye for detail. We don't have much time, but I'm going to try to go through things here quickly. C, if you look at C, is the important thing there is it's missing a bridge, and it's missing a bridge intentionally. So sometimes a song does not need to have a bridge, right? And why a song may not need to have a bridge? Sometimes the musicality of it might not need one. And sometimes it could be over 3 minutes 30. And if it's over 3 minutes 30, the easy way to do it is to chop off a chorus or chop off the bridge. So keep that in mind when you're writing song structures. Song structures are very, very important because we know how we talked about being unique enough to be different, but familiar enough to be recognizable. The familiar enough to be recognizable is easily obtained in a song structure because people are used to a verse going into a chorus, going into a verse, going into a chorus, a bridge where you kind of escape a little bit and then you're back to the chorus and then the song ends, right? So these are some of the song structure styles. Now we're going to talk about bridges. So a bridge in the song is really the space of the song, and it's an opportunity for you as the songwriter to escape a little bit. It's a little vacation from the core melody and the expected rhythm of a song. Here you can explore a different chord progression or just a different melody on top of the same chord progression, So you can use that bridge to emphasize a certain message or to highlight a challenge in the song. It can also be used to introduce a final new challenge that the singer is facing, for example. And lastly, a bridge can be a fun way to introduce a new and simple melody before bringing the audience back home to the chorus. If you struggle writing bridges, which is a common thing, people will write a song, but then they'll be like, I have no idea what to do for the bridge. Think of it as a new song. If you were to take the same chords and write a different song, what melody would you use? And then use that little melody, because a bridge is quite short, really, and put that as your bridge. That's a good way to think about it. So now we're going to go into the basic sort of structure here. So first verse, if you look on the left here in A, first verse is, as we mentioned, the opening line, super important, the intro to your story. First impression, it sets the tone, tells people what to expect from the rest of the song. And then it transitions to your chorus seamlessly. Your first chorus is the introduction of the repetitive hook. The chorus is the strongest part of your song, really. It's the part that people are going to sing along. It's the part that people are going to remember later on. They're going to whistle the chorus. So this has to be a very, very strong component. And their first one doesn't necessarily have to jump with full energy. Adele, for example, goes really soft with her first chorus. But in her second and third chorus, especially that last chorus, she is full on shouting and the full orchestra is there. The first chorus might be her on the piano, you know, just singing softly the first chorus. She's introducing that hook, right? So start soft and you can build it up throughout or keep it consistent. Second verse is the journey continued, right? So here you're continuing on what you mentioned in the first verse. Maybe something new has happened. Maybe then now you're introducing layers. Maybe you're introducing a backstory to the first part. Here is your chance to introduce a new element or emphasize certain things. The second chorus is really just the recognizable first chorus, repeat it again. You can do things a little bit differently, but try to, as much as you can, keep it similar. You can change a few words here and there, or you can sing it with more emphasis, for example, but keep that chorus recognizable and familiar. Your bridge, as we mentioned, is the time where you can kind of escape a little bit, introduce a twist, a new funky melody here. And then your last chorus ideally builds up really, really nicely with a lot of energy and then calms down at the last outro, right? So this basic song structure that you see here is the component and the structure of some of the top hits in the world. They follow exactly this structure. And you'll also be able to see it now with a cool example. Oh, I'm going backwards, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna look at a song here really quickly as a case study. We're gonna look at pop song structure of Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. I'm sure you've all heard this song, right? Whether you're an Ed Sheeran fan or not, I'm sure you can appreciate that he's an incredible songwriter who's won many, many awards and has made millions, not just off of his music, but of writing music for others. And from what we've just seen, we're gonna talk about all of the elements that we've just discussed and analyze his song really quickly. So verse 1, if you remember the song, it goes, you know, the club isn't the best place to find a lover, the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the corner taking shots, drinking fast, and then we talk slow, right? So he talks here. The first thing he answers is, remember when I asked who, what, when, where, why, and how? So the club isn't the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go. First of all, that's a really strong opening line, right? Like how many songs start with that? Almost, pretty much none of them do. So already he's starting off strong. And he's answering the question, he's answering where. Where does he go? He goes to the bar because the club isn't the best place to find the lover. That's the why. Why isn't the club not the best place to find a lover? Why is he at the bar? He goes to the bar because the club isn't the best place, right? What is he doing? He's drinking shots with his friends, drinking fast and talking slow. That's what he's doing. Where is he? He's at the bar. Who is he with? He's with his friends, right? Me and my friends taking shots, that we says. So we've answered who, we've answered what, we've answered where. What's left is really, and we've answered why, right? What's left is when and how. So then he goes into the pre-chorus. After that is the girl, you know, I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me, right? So this is what he's telling her. He's also saying why and the how, like, I want your love because it's made for me, right? And then the chorus hits, I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do, right? Very simple, very nice. He's using magnets as like a metaphor there, as a simile with the like, actually. And this is a great example of the how, right? And then we answer the when. Now he's giving it some timing. Verse 2, remember, is a continuation of the story of the first verse. So at the first verse, he meets the girl. At the chorus, he's now in love with the girl. And the second verse, they're not together. 1 week in, that's the when. Now they're a week. We're going out on our first date. That's the what are we doing? Where are we going? You know what I mean? So he's answering these little questions. Then he goes back to the pre-chorus and the chorus. The song is building up now. And then we have the bridge. And one easy way you can, nail a really good bridge is to have a repetitive build-up melody. So all his bridge is come on, be my baby, come on, be my baby, come on. And then, the drums and the guitar clinks in, boom, dum, dum, boom. And it just repeats. And you can see that is where he's really taking the listener on a little vacation, introducing a fresh idea in the bridge, telling her, be my baby. We've been on a few dates, just be mine now. That's the final message he's conveying in the bridge. And then he takes the listeners back with I'm in love with the shape of you, back to the chorus. So this is a really, great analysis to show you a song structure of a verse, chorus, bridge, and a chorus with Ed Sheeran, one of the most successful artists right now. So we don't have much time, so I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly. But ideally, I think we will continue the rest of this session in another session, hopefully next month. So let's talk about what makes good hook, right? Because it really has to answer the question when someone asks you, you remember that song by Ed Sheeran, the one that talks about like a person's shape and how he's in love with it? How does that song go, right? So what's the first thing you're going to sing to them? You're going to sing, I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like a magnet do. That's the chorus, right? That is your hook. That is the chorus, the part that is memorable. So that in your song, you really have to give it some thought. What is my hook? What is the memorable, catchy, easy part that the listener wants to sing over and over again? What's the part that I can make that gets stuck in people's minds, right? And as we mentioned, this is the part that's easy for the average listener to sing, hum, and whistle to. It's the heart of your song and it's the main message of your story. And think of it as the answer to your verses questions, right? So Ed Sheeran in his verses is taking the journey on when he goes to the bar and he's single and he's having a good time with his friends. He's looking for somebody. And then he kind of meets the girl. And in the chorus, he's like saying, I'm in love with the shape of you and I want to be with you and all of this. And then the second verse continues the story. So what the chorus and the hook is doing here is answering the questions of the verse, right? As we mentioned, it also benefits from being repeated throughout the song. And it's highlighted through things like emphasis, contrast, and placement. Now, if you are thinking about what to title your song, you title it based off of your chorus, right? Or if you have a unique word. We'll touch on that a little bit later on. But an easiest way is your chorus should be your title of your song, right? That line, there's Ed Sheeran's I'm in love with the shape of you. What's the song called? Shape of You, right? So that's a really easy way if you struggle with having a title for your song to find the title of your song. And remember, when it comes to making a title for your song, if your song title is love song, just love song, if I was to search love song on YouTube, how many love songs results am I going to get? So many, right? Millions. I mean, it's crazy. But if your title is something more specific, right? Like it could be anything really. If your title is for example, we had someone submit a song and the title was Jetpack. I love that. Jetpack is a great one. You know what I mean? That's quite unique. There's not many songs with that. So that's a great song title right there. And it was also in their chorus, which is great. And for example, You can even have a song title that is quite long. That's not a problem, but sometimes remember, less is more. So if you are thinking about titles, try to keep that in mind. You don't want your title to get lost in a line of things. So you can make it a little bit unique as well. That will help you out. So these are some examples of great song hooks from different artists, right? Amy Winehouse, they try to make me go to rehab. I said, no, 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 right? Rihanna, Under My Umbrella, Ella, Ella, A. You've got Carly Rae Jepsen with, hey, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me, maybe. All of these, I'm sure they get stuck in your head. Drake had started from the bottom, now we're here, right? So these are simple lines, very catchy melodies. And if you notice, Amy Winehouse, they try to make me go to rehab, but I said, no, no, no. What's the song called? Rehab. Rihanna, Under My Umbrella, Umbrella, Ella, Ella, A. The song's called Umbrella. Call Me Maybe, right? Started from the bottom. That's literally the first 4 words of Drake's song. And then you've got Sweet Caroline as well, right? By Neil Diamond. So yeah, we've got some different songwriting techniques and things that we can go through really, really quickly here. But present moment writing is really a very simple method to kind of touch on. And it's really writing about how you feel in the present moment. Ask yourself, how am I feeling now? Write down all your emotions. Ask yourself, what has made me feel this way? Whether it's today, this week, this month. Is this a positive experience? Do I want to keep this? Do I want to change this? Take us through that journey, right? For example, you might notice a lot of songs are written about waking up, hearing birds, and having a cup of coffee, right? Recent one on TikTok, I'll make a cup of coffee for your head to get you up and going out of bed, right? Bob Marley, 3 Little Birds, right? Even singing sweet songs, this is my message to you, don't worry, be happy, right? There's so many songs written about familiar things, so you can write that in your present moment. And then you have visual imagery writing, which is very much imagining yourself in a different place and jumping back into a memory, or sometimes sitting beside someone as a silent observer, almost like you're watching a movie and writing about that. Take us through the movie of your life experience. Take us on that journey. Translate that imagery into words for your audience, right? And even if it's something that is made up, you can still transport us along on that journey, right? So now we're gonna talk a little bit about polishing up your finished song. Once you have all of these things together, take a step back and see the big picture for what it is. Once you have written all of these ideas and things, you can now put them in structures that we talked about earlier. Start your editing phase where you take out words. Remember, less is more. So how much can I emphasize with fewer words? It's really important here. As I mentioned, editors take away unnecessary words rather than adding more words. And then you can do a really fun exercise, which is experimenting with changing I to you, or he to they, or it. These little exercises can add a whole new perspective and a completely different meaning to your song. One thing that I like to do, for example, I'm a male, right? If I'm writing a song about my girlfriend, I can say like, she's beautiful, she's amazing, she's this and she's that. But then if I was to, instead of using she, if I was to write you, now a woman who wants to sing this song to her husband can also sing it. Oh, you're amazing, you're gorgeous, you're nice. You know what I mean? So things like that can add a lot to a song without us realizing. Because I'm writing about my wife, that's cool. But I can also think about, if I'm writing this to a general audience, I might want to change it to a you, or a, or an I instead of, So experiment with that a little bit. And then ask yourselves, are there some lines here I can phrase a little differently? There might be a more efficient way to get my point across. Or is there some cliche lines that I can use more, a strong, more profound word there, a nice twist on a synonym of a word that can express it, but express it in a way that hasn't been expressed many times before. And yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to have enough time to look over your songs, but I do really appreciate you sending them. Hopefully in the next session, we'll be able to do that, and I'll give you some feedback and criticism on the songs that you suggested. And I hope you guys enjoyed this course. That's all the time we have right now, but hopefully I will see you guys in the next session, where we can hopefully I'll ask you guys, if we have this session, to submit some of the artists that you appreciate and admire, one song of theirs, their name, and we'll analyze what makes that song great, and then we'll talk about your song, and I'll give you some feedback on your song directly, and then we can talk about how to improve your song and make your song better. I hope you guys enjoyed this session, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone at the Global Music Institute for having me. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. That was super, super informative, and I'm really glad all of these people could join us. And like Danny mentioned, guys, this is just part one, so we'll keep you informed about part two. And I think that might actually give more people a chance to submit their lyrics. Is that okay, Danny?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
we can
for
definitely
sure.
do that.
So we received lyrics from a few people. In case someone else from the session now has decided to submit their lyrics, it would be great if they could for part two of the session. And then Danny could just walk us through and give us some feedback. That would be amazing. Thank you
Sure.
so much once again, Danny. That was great. I really enjoyed that. There was so much to learn, and you took it on in such a detailed manner. So thank you so much for that. Are there any questions by any chance? I think Danny has like 2 minutes. Danny, is that fine?
Yeah, yeah. 2 minutes is fine for questions. I've got to head out for a show soon, but I
Yeah.
can answer a question or two. I'm just reading the chats here. Thank you guys so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if for the next session, I wanted to mention what I'll be doing is I'll be putting the songs on screen for the next session. And what that does is it really gives us all a chance to learn from each other, right? So if you, I really suggest this. It's a very helpful experience once you are able to see everyone's songs, because someone's strength might be your weakness might be someone's strength. So it's great to kind of see that. If you are not comfortable with having your name, for example, because I know as an artist to be able to share our work is a big statement, that's fine that you can have your name as anonymous, and I won't share that in the session, but I will put your lyrics up and we'll go through everyone's lyrics and things like that in the next session. So I just wanted to mention that while everybody is here. And yeah, unfortunately, I have to head out to a show, but thank you very much for having me, and I hope to see you all again very soon.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you in the next session. All right. Shall we wrap up, friends?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Danny. Good luck for the show.
Thanks very much.